Welcome to a new episode of Diversity Matters, a fireside chat series hosted by PRCA's Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. The conversation about LGBTQ plus matters and rights is not new, especially within the communications industry. While Asia Pacific has made progress in the area, the vast diversity of the countries in the region means that there are varying levels of maturity in the inclusion and acceptance of LGBTQ communicators. The communications industry has traditionally been more accepting of its LGBTQ plus members, but there remain gaps in the understanding of LGBTQ plus concerns and challenges. The truth is that there is so much more the industry can do to truly support its LGBTQ plus members. June is Pride Month, and we want to take the opportunity today to discuss and explore how the communications industry in Asia Pacific can move from an inclusion to an empowerment of its LGBTQ plus community. I'm Sai Roshni Daswani, Director of Client Strategy APAC at Sinclair, and a member of the PRCA Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. And we have with us today Nikki Phinyapincha, founder of TransTalents Consulting Group and the chair of the PRCA APAC Pride Network. Thank you for joining us today, Nikki.
Sadika, hi everyone. Hi Sai. Thanks for having me.
So, shall we get straight into it?
Well, for sure. Let's take it away.
All right. So getting right into the heart of it, Nikki, can you give us a quick introduction of the LGBTQ plus community and share your very inspiring journey to becoming an advocate for the communications industry?
All right, sure. So actually the LGBTQI plus community is a group of the people who identify as a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer questioning, and more. So it is a diverse and vibrant community that has been historically marginalized and face discrimination still, to be honest. So, but now today, some of a lot of people in the LGBTQIA plus community have made a significant, impact and movement in the recent years towards greater visibility and acceptance, around the country, especially in the Asia Pacific region. So as a member of this community, I'm a transgender person. I've been, honestly, and experiencing all forms of discrimination, including, physical, verbal abuse in, social class, education, and even the career growth. Life of this, marginalized group of people is normally excluded, especially from the decision-making role from politics to life. And I want to change this. So I'm determined to create a positive change, challenge the stereotype. And that's why my purpose is to, empower marginalized group people and combat with the bias and discrimination for socioeconomic justice. Because I know when we can exercise in the space of power, when we can optimize our potentials to become, in the decision-making role, it really drives the structural change. It really, remove the systemic barriers that limit our potential, our participation in any kind of perspective, financial freedom, economic empowerment, and social movement, and any kind of thing that really, drive the change. So this is the fact, the way that our work for setting up the TransTalents Consulting Group, we really focus on changing the economic perspective, for a better life of marginalized groups for the better change. So through our work, we aim to empower vulnerable groups and fight back against all form of discrimination by taking up the space of power and cement our presence.
And so how has that been within the communications industry itself specifically?
So I would actually, been monitoring a lot, in different industry. For example, in the communication industry, where I have been working for 8 years in Thailand, based in Bangkok. So But before joining the PRCA, so I didn't really realize that actually, looking outside of Thailand, there are still a lot of challenges that have been found. And I talk, I just back from the US because I got the scholarship for doing the leadership program. So I met a lot of young leaders from Southeast Asia where we share a lot of challenges, struggles, and, proactive movement that these young folks, have been trying to drive the change for the future world, which is so inspiring and empowering as well. So, to be honest, I saw the LGBTQ communities in the communication industry in Asia Pacific region is diverse and growing. But however, many LGBTQ individuals in the industry, I have been heard, I have been monitored, and even I have the research back, data that they are still face a lot of challenges and discrimination, particularly in the countries where the LGBTQ rights are not fully recognized and protected. Let me give you some statistics, which is very proving. In 2020, there is International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans, and Intersex Association. We call ILGA or ILGA, like ILGA Asia. They produced a report in 2020. They said only 17 countries in Asia Pacific region have legal protection against discrimination based on sexual orientation.
Oh, wow.
And only 9 countries, have legal protection against discrimination based on gender identity. And in 2021, we've seen some countries like Brunei, Malaysia, and Singapore. They are continuing to criminalize same-sex sexual conduct, which is quite different perspective that we can see in the Asia Pacific region. So we have pro and we have con, and we have those who support and those who really suppress these vulnerable group of people. And in 2020, we have some research from the Williams Institution at the UCLA. They also say that actually 69% of the LGBTQ people experience discrimination, harassment, sexual violence based on their gender identity in the past year as well. So again, while we can see that communication industry are still supporting diverse and growing, but in some part of people who are in some countries, there are still a lot of rooms to do and to improve and to make these people's life to be more equal and equitable in terms of basic human rights and opportunities in working and be represented in different industries and different levels.
Okay, so I'm seeing that there's a general thinking as well in the comms industry. Everybody is very inclusive of and welcoming of the LGBTQ plus community, and we're seeing a lot of campaigns, especially during Pride Month. So I actually thought, it might be a nice time to think to ask you, what are your thoughts around this? How are you feeling? Are you really seeing that there is a change? Is there some kind of activations or campaigns that you're seeing as super exciting this month as well as beyond?
Well, I'm sure that Pride Month is a very exciting month, colorful, and I see a lot of communication industry has made a lot of progress towards the greater inclusivity and support, voicing and highlighting the LGBTQ community. And it's very important to recognize, but again, there's still a lot of work to be done. I see a lot of campaign and public displays and of support during Pride Month are something important and help raise awareness and promote, inclusion and acceptance. But you need to make sure when you need to do the Pride Month campaign or LGBTQ inclusion in the workplace, you need to make sure that all the efforts that you are communicating, that you are promoting, are backed up by concrete action and policy that support the LGBTQ individuals throughout the year, not only on the Pride Month. So I have some, three ways to disrupt the status quo on the
Alright.
LGBT inclusivity in the workplace and also in the communication campaign as well. So first of all, when it comes to the campaign and communication, whatever that you're going to promote your LGBTQ employees and colleagues, like to make yourself to be aligned, or you do for your customer, because of course some customer would hire some agency to do campaign on LGBTQ month, Pride Month. So first, it shouldn't be again more than just a cheerful campaign, a colorful, you color the rainbow flag or color in your products and then done. And then you said we are LGBTQ
I feel like that's
aligned.
what happens. Like everybody
Yeah.
has the rainbow and then they're like, we support it, and then that's it. Like no one says anything after that.
Yeah. When it comes to business, when you commercialize, it is not wrong. But when you commercialize, how you can make sure that you can deliver the positive impact back to the community, back to your employee as well. I think that's a challenge, and that's another step that people are really less aware of that. Especially, for example, let me give you some very example. So when talking about the conversation, the dialogue, or the message that you need to deliver on the Prime Minister, so I need you to Google and make more research and harder studies on what are the dialogue, social stigmatization, stereotypes of LGBTQ people are facing this day. You shouldn't be, use the generic words like we are welcome everyone is equal, and that's it. It's very generalized and not really tackle into specific issue of what LGBTQ people are facing in real life.
So basically, you're saying it's good to get straight into the issue rather than just saying that you support it.
Yeah, like when talking about the problem, like when you do the product marketing, like when you do customer segmentation, you really need to understand inside, right? Deep, what is the pain point of what the customer are looking for. Same, you do the same thing like for the LGBTQ, advocacy campaign. So you need to understand they are facing violence. They are facing what? Stereotype of not being credible, not being professional. Why people think when talking about LGBTQ, you need to be just entertainment, beauty, media, or sex industry. Or even just you need to be out. You need to be outstanding. You always need to perform as an LGBTQ. But sorry, LGBTQ people are very normal. Some of them introvert, extrovert. Me, I don't really how speak loud and make fun anytime. We are different. That's why we are normal. So that's why we need to really understand as well, when you talk about the campaign and try to highlight these people, because it's going to create the stereotype or reproduce stereotype of this image that not all LGBTQ would love to be put in the same box of rainbow box. You know what I mean?
And I guess this is also different for each region, right? So, not region, rather each country. So we were talking about the different countries, different types of things that they're all facing are going to be different in each. So it's also making sure you understand that, right?
Yeah, even when you have, the conversation, the campaign, how to make them relevant to the community of LGBTQ people, how to convert their real life, not the stage life, you know what I mean? Stage authenticity. They perform in the media, but in the real life, what are they really are? I think I don't see really much campaign really show the authenticity of these people in real life, rather than just being out loud and make it fun and make it joke. And then in the end of the day, people are still perceived that, okay, you are LGBTQ, you need to make fun, you need to be a fun of this kind of, image. So let me tell you one event happening in as I mentioned, how to make it year long, not only highlight on the Pride Month, you Google and then you can search like LGBTQ calendar. So we have a lot of year-round awareness day. For example, upcoming in May on 17, we have the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Interphobia, and Transphobia that we call ED&I. So I think you can Google this word and then you can see how you could start promoting and advocating the LGBTQ people, starting like, before Pride Month, even would be great. So in order to make sure that you understand the conversation and what these people are looking for. Okay. So, and second, start from parade. So we should shift the paradigm, from parade to paradigm shift on how you can help unlock these people to become a better version of themselves. Like a lot of people, you hide the LGBTQ people, but I'm still questioning as well on how you can move from that inclusion to the empowerment, like how you can break the barriers of making these people into the decision-making level. Like, not only get them and you tell yourself that you're inclusive. I think everyone needs to have their authority, ownership, and has a progress in their career growth, right? So
I guess you're talking about moving the needle from just inclusion to empowerment.
yes. So it's not just about, giving them the voice and giving them the equal, opportunity. But I think when talking about equal opportunity, we need to talk about leadership as well. Why I'm really into the leadership position, because I know when we have the people like diverse leaders in the boarding room, so it really, voice different perspective, and that could really help shape the inclusive policy with different voices, with different groups of the people. Because sometimes when a lot of policy and support are made from one group of the people who really, not come from different background and don't really fit the discrimination. So they just have the high level policy, but that high level policy is very difficult and challenge to turn that into concrete action. So that's why I think when we have diverse leaders into the boardroom position, so it really drives structural change, drive the systemic barriers, and also help drive the policy change. And that's very important to make a change on ground.
Okay. So we've basically, just to summarize, so we've spoken about three key things here. So, from inclusion to empowerment, not making sure your campaigns are not just about the words and, being cheerful, but having that purpose, and, showcasing you really understand, what you're trying to get at. It's not just about being part of the conversation, but really showcasing how you can help with that change and help with that movement, right? And then also you spoke about, kind of breaking the leadership ceiling, I guess, for LGBTQ plus communicators and, seeing what that could look like. So I think these are all very interesting things. And, thank you so much for bringing that up. So we were talking about supporting LGBTQ communicators specifically. So specifically into the leadership roles and why that's so important. I understand that, from our conversations before, that you have some initiatives or some steps that you can maybe share with our audience and see how they might be able to take some support and, get involved, really.
Sure, thank you for, really giving a space to highlight on this one. Like, again, as I mentioned earlier, why a leadership role is very important for the LGBTQ communication industry, and of course, like in different industry too. So, like for example, in our PRCA, we have founded the PRCA APAC Asia Pacific Pride Network. So, because we know that we need to gather, representation of LGBTQ people in the industry as well. Because, when it comes to the representation, of course, we really, have the power to negotiate, to drive the change. So, but when we talk about increased representation, it sounds like how to do it. So again, come back to your, policy. First, you need to see how you really empower your LGBTQ employees, how you can plan and really map your LGBTQ career empowerment, growth in order to make sure that they have equitable, access and network in order to get into the decision-making role, right? So, and then when you are doing internal organization like better, so you can go out to seek to work with the external community as well. So we can start targeted recruitment. I work with some clients on how to hiring more the LGBTQ executive into the organization as well. So oftentimes when I just look at of course, like before doing anything, I need to do, need assessment and doing a lot of, survey and analyze a lot of data for the company. So one thing that I find is that they want a diverse talents, but they look for the talent pools in the same sources. Right. So that's why you cannot have any, diverse talents who come to join in your organization because the source that you hire the people are still the same.
Of course, yeah, that makes more sense.
That makes sense, right? So when you need to be very proactive to hiring these people, you need to jump out of your comfort zone, jump out of your, the same resource pool talent, seeking to find out, what else, So that's why I recommend them to the communities of the LGBTQ people. They are gathered and then they really can work with the community to find out what is talent. And of course, there would have some critical point criticisms about do we need to impose the gender quota on the hiring policy. So when talking about diversity, the measure of the impact would be measured by number. It's still needed. But of course, when you need to impose the gender quota, but you need to make sure that those whom you are hiring, like LGBTQ people, they need to be very competent as well. So we cannot just get people because of the gender and get into the company without...
It's really just ticking a box, right?
It's
about ensuring that, it's the right person for the job as well.
Yeah, and that's why. So we need to measure this by number of representation of LGBTQ people, plus competencies that reach to your standard that are you looking for. Second, if you don't have these people, I just did this empowering program with some corporates as well in Thailand for the LGBTQ people. So we did a mentoring program. I think this is very important on how you can provide equitable access. So when talking about equity, right? So people just don't understand how it's different between equity and equality. So it's like, for example, equity is like you provide, different resources to different group of people because some people need more access, some people may need less, right? So thinking about when you give the ladders to those who short or those who are tall. So for tall people, they may need one step up the ladder, or maybe they don't need to, right? But some people who are short, they need more ladders to jump into, to see the same thing. So this is an example of why we need to provide equitable resources, to the people. So for the LGBTQ people, they have, less access to, education, network to the professional growth. So that's why we need to provide this thing. So we initiate the mentoring program with the community, with the corporate one, whom we can provide a training program on the leadership, how to do the career growth, how to do more project management and all the things that we are needed. And these people need to be trained, need to be mentored to get into the position or to the career level that they need, to pursue, to thrive personally and professionally. And also the leadership program, I think that's very important. Like at the initial step that you could, provide.
Okay. How about some things about how people are using different language, how some actions that we're seeing different organizations take and whatnot, just in terms of communications. How How's that been? How's that been different, in the last couple of years compared to previously, maybe?
Okay, come back to more to more something very standard, right? So because before that, I talking about hiring, mentoring, and leadership program is very proactive one. But for those organizations who are going to start, like don't know how to start, but they want to be, they're like to learn how to be inclusive. Yes, like you mentioned, but we should start with the first thing, the right mindset, how to create the safe space and safe environment, like we call a lot of like psychological safety workplace. So we need to start from that mindset, how to address the bias and discrimination by training, education, policy, and procedure to promote this thing. Of course, second, you can go with the communication wise, how to communicate that policy into action, right? So you can use the neutral language, you can add a pronoun, and these are the things you can Google. It's very easy to find out, right? Language, or have the bathroom, neutral gender bathroom, if you have budget to do so. Otherwise, you need to, one tips that I advise the company, let's say they need to like reconstruct the bathroom to have like more gender diverse. It's like, no, you don't need to build a new one. You just, take the label out and then put the gender neutral. So it's just the way that you see this thing, and then, it's very cost effective and you don't need to put a lot of budget to reconstruct your office, right? So just take out the label and then put the neutral gender. So everyone feel like, okay, good. I'm doing that, language, bathroom, so way that you do, what are the languages that you are using, or what else, dress code. So people should be allowed to dress whatever that you want. They want to express themselves, and then what else? Like this is kind of general things that you can do.
I guess that's just for any normal human being, right? It's just the kind of things everybody would need, but it's just now it's just spoken about in a different way.
Yeah. So, but sorry, just one more thing. Like, don't forget when you do this kind of physical thing, like language, bathroom, dress code. But again, come back, something which are like, mentally and something that you can see like bias and discrimination. It really need a lot of, constant effort to do the training program, education program, and create the environment like inclusive space where everyone feel ready to voice themselves, to out their identity. But if they don't out, you don't need to force them to be out. This is where like you need to be careful, right? So just create a natural, inclusive space for them.
Okay. So talking about that, the PRCA ED&I committee is working towards a charter, and we're doing this for the communications industry across APAC. So what is the one thing that you strongly believe should be captured in this charter?
Empowerment.
Yes,
I think this is very important. Before we talk a lot inclusion, welcome to everyone, but now we need to shift to another level. So we need to empower these people because, when we talk about discrimination, when we talk about, sexual harassment, it's really, mental health, and it's really limited their, self-realization, unlock the self-potential to become another level of themselves. I think when we can empower people to become, stronger and really respectful, not only to themselves, but to the people who are around, I think we really need to give the power to the people who are limited to get into this, resource and network and support. So when they become, a leaders of themselves, they become to the leaders, that can lead to change. So I think that the impact we are making. Like I have seen a lot of, leaders nowadays, they talk about to be a very, inclusive leader or to be a really real leader, you need to build another leader. I think that's I love that concept a lot. And I really encourage you guys to empower diverse leaders for the future, which are very, dynamically changing a lot to tackle the diversity inclusion in the real action in real life.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That is so inspiring to just take away, and thank you so much for that. So finally, to wrap everything up, what would be the one thing that you would like to leave our listeners with that will inspire them and motivate them? Of course, everything else that you've been saying so far has, but the one takeaway to get them started on their DE&I journey.
So to be honest, as we are, PR professional, it doesn't mean that we need to communicate what exactly the client would like us to. Sometimes we can be the change enabler, the change communicator by advising or educating our client to understand what are the reality. We are if we believe in the power of the communication that connect and collaborate people for being a better people, I think you understand that how can use this powerful tool that we all have to create a change. Like I mentioned earlier, LGBTQ people, they face a lot of, stereotype, discrimination, how you can use your tool to create a better change. So leading change with your communication skill, I think that's what we can start from. And again, you can not only communicate without empathy, right? So we need to listen more, work it hard, study more on what these people are looking for and what are not and what are okay to do. And then you can communicate that with the impact. So that's what I want to leave it to the today's session.
Thank you so much, Nikki. So thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on this episode of Diversity Matters. And to everyone who's listening into the conversation, to our audience, we want to hear from you. So please do share your thoughts with us. And you can email us, DM us, or even just comment on the conversation. And we'll be more than happy to pick up on some of the things that you bring up in any future episodes. So feel free to share this conversation as well with your friends, with your colleagues, and we look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you. สวัสดีค่ะ
Thank you.